All right, welcome to Feisty Chess. We've got white in a rapid game on Lee Chess against Arch. We've got a Sicilian. That means, as always, we're going to pull out the trusty Morra Gambit. Black does not accept. He goes for d3. So we take with the bishop. And now we actually spend this extra tempo to get c4 in. We've got what's called a Maroczy bind over this. The bind is on the square d5. It makes it really tough for black to play d5, and he's actually gone and played e5. Played e5. All right, knight f3 makes sense. We want to get h3 in as soon as he threatens to play bishop g4. Okay, he's going for a check here. Let's keep pieces. Let's not trade off bishops. Black playing this in an unorthodox manner. All right, now it's time for h3 because we don't want bishop g4 coming. We have time. We're not in a hurry. We're not down a pawn. And we just have a spacious position against black here. All right, well, we're going to castle, probably get our bishop to e3. That looks like a great... Oh, I see, bishop e3, he's got knight d4 planned. We'll just castle. I think that queen's going to end up being misplaced. We can win the bishop pair with a3. But black could take at some point and just double our pawns on the c file, which are doubled pawns on an open file. And that's kind of the worst kind of pawn structure weakness. But still, it's just a pawn structure weakness. Am I right? So, knight f6. Now we maintain a big grip over d5 here. Maybe now bishop e6. I'm sorry, bishop e3. And we can we get away with knight d4 taking with the knight. And the knight here. Maybe we're getting too fancy here. Maybe knight a4 immediately makes sense. Knight d5 looks pretty good. Actually, bishop g5 combined with the idea of knight d5 looks good. So yeah, that's moving a new piece, and it's making kind of a structural threat. Okay, bishop g5 it is. The idea is take here, and after takes, there's knight d5. I suppose after queen d8, things look okay. For black, but he doesn't have a safe place to castle. And I just own the d5 square, taking away his only defender of d5. Okay, he adds another defender. Well, I've got knight b5 and knight a4. If I play a3, he has to take my knight. Where's my queen want to go? I don't have to do any of those things right now. I have queen to c2, and then I can win the bishop pair without that structural damage, but honestly, that structural damage doesn't concern me. Maybe bishop back to e3 now makes sense. He's got bishop c5, though. I think I'm just going to play queen to c2. It guards b2, and it guards the knight on c3. Because he no longer has knight to d4 to harass that queen. My bishop could come back here, but then bishop... Oh, bishop c5, I've got knight a4. So this just chases his queen some. Let's do this. With queen a5, maybe I just go bishop d2. Okay, he's missed knight a4. And he's not losing a piece or anything because his d6 pawn covers. But he's losing the bishop pair. Or do I have anything better here? Do I have knight takes e5? That's a wild continuation. The idea being, if e takes, then I get a free piece. Either knight or bishop. Probably knight takes c5. But he doesn't have to do that. He can take my bishop. And then my knight doesn't really have anything better than maybe knight takes f7? Yeah, that's... His king hasn't castled. That would be a fun way to play, but I just don't see a lot of activity from my remaining pieces. My bishop and my queen are stuck behind these pawns. I got a rook. I can open a rook after this recapture. Actually, the knight's trapped. He could just retreat the bishop. So let's forget about that line. Yeah, the bishop is his best piece. We'll just take it off with the knight. Let's get a rook on the d file. Yeah, okay. I promised myself I wasn't going to get in time trouble this time, because last time that did happen. Okay. Well, how are we going to hang on to these bishops? Bishop probably goes on e2. I can leave the bishop there. I'm going to play a3, keeping the knight out of b4. If he decides to castle on the king side, okay, we are taking this. He'll have a protected passed pawn, but yeah, whichever way he wants to take, probably c takes. Then I've got an f4 break after, say, bishop c1. Yeah, might as well bring this back to c1. Well, actually bishop d2, and I'm threatening bishop b4. Wow, that's not really a threat, is it? Okay, let's go back to c1. f4 is the plan. Probably even if he tries to clear this knight away. Oh, he's got knight h5. Then maybe... Okay. It'll be too late with knight h5. We're going to go for f4. And hopefully he'll end up with a weak pawn on d4 here. We're also opening the board for our bishops. And because he hasn't castled yet. So I like this position. The bishops don't look like much now, but after some pawn trades, they can really dominate the board. Whoa. He's giving away a pawn here. Actually, is he giving away a knight? All right. Taking here allows him to recapture with the queen, which guards the knight. Taking here, I've got options for how to proceed. If he automatically recaptures, I just grab the knight on f6, right? I don't see any compensation for black. Maybe you can try sacrificing on h3, but he's already down a bunch of material. My queen guards the second rank. So I think that was just an oversight. All right, how to play this. His queen isn't really in the game. I have to watch out for his queen being able to penetrate on the H file. Maybe I just go rook h6. Just try to swap some pieces off. I do have a check. But then bishop d7. Okay, lots of choices. Let's just take, I guess. And after bishop takes, maybe I just go rook f1. Bishop here is probably better, just to trade off more pieces. And my rook cuts the queen off from having access to the H file once I defend it. This rook on f6, so the queen doesn't really have a way to get through to the H file. which is where any real attack is going to happen here. Okay. Wanted to play that move anyway. Got a little bit scared by d3 there, but I've got 2 pieces on it, and if he takes bishop e2, it's no longer a fork after queen takes e2. All right. What to do here? Okay, pushing. Ooh. Just going to sit tight. When he castles queenside, I'll try to break through. I can always give an exchange back. I'd be up 2 bishops for a rook. Say castles, I could take on f7. No, that's terrible. That's terrible. That's not giving an exchange back. Okay. So let's first blockade that pawn. We're not in a hurry. He was threatening d3, and we can just push through. This looks like a good position. I keep, you get down a piece. It's strange how you feel like you're in danger. Black's in just as much danger as I am here, and I'm up a piece to show for it. But the thing is, when you get a castling on opposite sides, you often get a wild game, and you don't really want a wild game when you're up a piece. You just want to trade stuff off and win the ending. That's how I am anyway. Maybe I could be more proactive about this. Okay. I like this. He's letting us push. I thought king b8 was a better try. Oh, now we can trade pieces off. very happily. Yeah, especially with the time trouble I'm in. Ooh, this is not a piece trade either. This is... Well, let's give this. And then we've got maybe bishop a3. Bishop a6 is a possibility. I don't think that gains us anything, though. Does it? Let's give it a shot. I might have rook f7 at the end of this. Yeah, rook f7, and bishop takes, rook takes. He's down a whole queen. Every move is check. So we found a better tactical way here rather than just go for the queen trade. We're winning more material. Let's move this rook back. We can defend on the second if we want with this one. Let's give him a check. And then let's just do a rook trade. No shame in that. We just grabbed another pawn at the end of all that, didn't we? No big deal. King h2 is a good next move. Only hanging piece is our white squared bishop. We got this passer though. That's maybe what I need to use to try to win. If he tries rook g3, king h2 just wins a piece. All right. Rook here looks good. Maybe playing king f2. The king would rather be towards the center. I'll defend. I'm not too proud. And actually, if he goes rook g4, I might just let him trade those. Okay. Just simplifies the task for me by quite a bit. Well, not sure about that actually. Okay, this can't be too bad. Let's take it. Gonna be an extra pawn up here. Oof. Opponent's kind of blitzing me out. If he trades rooks, we take with the pawn and we win the king and pawn ending. He has to keep rooks on the board, after which I've got rook check here, picking up the pawn. So he's going to be down a pawn. Well, this works too. Yeah, we're winning the king and pawn ending because of this fork. Okay, whew. Lucked out kind of there. Our opponent tried to get a little too tricky. At the end of the line, if you didn't see it, I was able to take this rook because obviously promoting to a queen, promoting to a knight is with check, but that's not going to win the game. Promoting to a queen, I have this fork, and then this is just an easily won king and pawn ending. I got the outside pass pawn. I'll let him round that up while I go and clean up his queenside pawns. So a little sloppy as far as how I won that at the end, but let's look at it from the beginning. No game found here. There must be some kind of transposition into some game or another. Okay, we're out of the opening pretty quick, out of the theory. White's got a healthy advantage here. Ooh, knight d5 is crushing here. Knight d5, queen d8. So if knight d5, let me see this line. That's a huge advantage for white. Queen d8, but what about knight takes here? C takes. I would imagine this would work. Or this would be the just a3. How is that? I mean, the material is still equal. How is this such a huge advantage? Bishop c5. Queen c2. That just guards b2, so maybe allowing for bishop here. But still, I don't understand how it's such an enormous advantage. So queen c2. Black does get castled. Bishop e3. Oh, the queen is just trapped. Wow. That's hard to see, those queen traps in the middle of the board. Oh, so he doesn't have to take with the queen, though. He can take with the pawn. And then what's the problem? a3. And his bishop is trapped. After b4, there's nothing to be done. Wow. Yeah, the queen really was misplaced on b6. I didn't take advantage of it like I should have. Knight a4 here. It likes just trading the bishops. I wasn't really able to make too much of my two bishops advantage, to be fair. But it looks like white had a steady advantage this whole time. Let's do this. Let that go. See what the graph looked like. Yeah, big advantage here. G5 was a pretty bad mistake. I didn't miss my chance on this one. Rook takes f6. A move earlier, G5 would have made sense to try to prevent f4. But that still weakens the king side quite a bit. And I might be able to get away with playing, well, no, I can't prepare f4 immediately. Yeah, G5 here, that's the computer's best line. He played it a move too late. And knight to G8 is the best move here, just giving up a pawn instead of a whole knight. I did give up a lot of time here. Yeah, bishop d3. c6. Okay, yeah. Oh, rook f7 here is better because he doesn't have king coming to d6. So I had the right idea, but I caught it a moment too late. I was in time trouble. I didn't see this idea. But right, that wins the queen immediately. Bishop a6, king c7, and the same idea, he has king here. Queen c6, king takes. Oh, interesting. b5 check looks interesting here. Not all that good though. If I had a pawn on a4, b5 check, and then bishop a3 would be a really sweet mate. Well, no, he can go to d6. I'm fantasizing a little bit. Inaccuracy. Rook 1 to f6 was best. Yeah, that tightens the hold on the king a little more. Oh, of course. That doesn't allow him to come to d7. So I was a little too safe, a little too trying to play it safe here. I wanted to keep this back rook back here so I could play guard on the 6th rank. I had no reason to do that, though, on the 2nd rank. So after rook 1 to f6, he has to play rook to e8 to try to save the bishop. Oh man. Then bishop c4, and he can't save the bishop because it's still pinned. Probably this is good enough too. Planning this, skewering the rook. But yeah, bishop c4 is just much simpler. Okay. Oh, I could just trade off the bishop right now. Rook takes e6 and then skewer and grab this rook. Went for the check instead and went for a simpler rook trade, but could have simplified even more with that tactic. Yeah, rook f5 makes more sense. Rook f5 actually defends the pawn with this threat. My plan was just to let him take the pawn, and I'll give you a pawn if we trade pieces. I had better, though, and I didn't have time to look for better. So once again, my main lesson in this game is time control. Not spending quite so much time. I made this move, a4, which is kind of meaningless here. Rook f5, and now he can't take here because I have rook takes. Pawn check and then grab the bishop with that fork. Instead I made that move. And now rook h3. Yeah, that's a better way to get the rook active, isn't it? I kind of blocked the rook in. Now rook f5 again, makes sense. King e6, rook g5. That's almost forcing a rook trade. Bringing the rook around like this. But yeah, I was just not thinking too well. Bishop b4 check. Sure, that gets me out of the fork. And then I can... Yeah, bishop b4 check. I had that planned when I played b5 anyway. That gets me out of a fork. King e6, and now I come here. And if he goes rook g8 and he wants to keep rooks on the board, then I'm chowing down on more pawns. So much was missed because I didn't save myself enough time for the ending. But nonetheless, I managed to prevail just by kind of trickery here, though. And that was a mistake, and it was a little too much trickery tried by my opponent. You see the difference here. 1 pawn advantage after something like rook g5. And now I just play this fork. And king f4 apparently is better than taking immediately. Makes sense. But I would have expected black to play something like king f6. And then rook takes a e3. So yeah, this is difficult for me to win. It's a rook endings, you know, they're very drawish. But white chose a line. I wonder here, I was thinking about king f3. Oh, you know what? I still had possibilities with king e2. Because then rook takes, if rook takes rook, I don't have to take back immediately. I've got this intermediate check, and then I take back later. And that would be an easy enough win. My bishop should be able to, well, he's got those two connectors. But they're stuck on dark squares, and with my king blockading, I should be able to get them. Especially if I can hang on to my passer here, which my bishop will allow me to do. So yeah, that should be a pretty routine win. I even have sacrificial ideas on these dark square pawns with the bishop on the board. If his king is over here somewhere, I can bishop takes b6 at some point and then just start marching. So that's why rook, yeah, that was a blunder taking on e3 here. King e2, rook takes here would be somewhat better. But then I'm still getting those pawns, right? King e6, rook takes d4. And I'll collect this pawn at some point. It's just a matter of time. King e5, rook h4, yeah, and then the maneuver like this, and then just bring the bishop there. And the king can't come to the defense of the pawn. So, okay, well, fortunately this made it easy on me. Black was clearly expecting that I had to take this pawn. And then he can take, and now this is a draw, clearly. Just dead equal position. But yeah, rook takes g4. You can let that promotion happen because I'll win that king and pawn ending after the fork. So, okay, tactics to the end. Feistiness all the way through. So stay feisty, everyone, even into your endgames. Talk to you later.